hello. Today we are here to talk about my mid-month check-in for reading for the month of May 2021. And guys, I don't know. It's just not going the best. There's a few things going on. One, I am working on a video essay about Jane Eyre. So I have been doing quite a bit of rereading this month just to refresh myself on certain passages, etc. So a lot of my sort of like more weighty reading time has been preoccupied with that, like my more focused reading time. So there's that. I've also just I've hit a wall. I know there was a big article in the New York Times about hitting a wall. I know there was that article about like languishing. So I think I'm not alone in this, in my journey of the last 18 months, but I've also been sick for 18 months, and I think I've just I'm just struggling with that. I'm tired of being sick, but there is no end in sight. So I think just mentally that's been a little bit of a block for me. So I'm not, all that to say, I've struggled to have anything hold my interest, including reading, which is very unusual for me. If you guys watch this channel regularly, reading is normally like my escape. But I think it's fair to say I'm in a slump, but not just with reading, it's just like with life. I don't know. So I am gonna take, my first time in 4 years, guys, I'm gonna take a break for only a couple of days. So this video is going up on Sunday. A week from today will be my video essay about Jane Eyre, which I'm really excited about. I've been putting a lot of work into that. That's one of the only things that is holding my attention, but I'm gonna just give myself a break for a few days. I already recorded the podcast, so that will go up, but I'm not gonna do live stream and I'm not gonna do my weekday video because I think I just would like to give myself some more reading time and just some sort of freedom to kind of try to get my head back together. Also, my kitties are looking so cute. Okay, let me see if I can catch them doing this. Hi. See, they always look at me like I'm narking them. They look at me like I'm, catching them doing something bad, but it's not bad. You guys are so cute. Okay. The Zoom was not kind to me. Okay, sorry. Thankful that my adorable kitties are here to distract me from my general feeling of glumness. But anyway, all that to say, I've not read as much as I normally would have read. I think I've only read like 6 or 7 books, most of which were like 150-page sci-fi romance. So I don't have a ton to talk to you about what I'm currently reading, but we will get into some of the things that I'm planning to get to or like want to leave space to get to. But really, we are in Operation D-Slump right now. So kind of all plans except for things I have to read for a couple of book club things are up in the air. So in terms of what I've already read, only a couple of things really worth noting. So first of all, I did read The Sacrifice of Darkness by Roxane Gay because one of my de-slumping theories is it's good to read short things that are easier to get through because it does help you feel like you're making progress, which is true. I don't know if it was my mood or actually I think after looking at the reviews, probably I'm not totally wrong about this. I thought this was a perfectly fine sci-fi graphic novel. Basically the premise is that Hiram Hightower flies into the sun and then everything goes dark after that. So we're following like his life, but then also the life of his kid and that love story that his kid's involved with. So it's dual timeline and it's about like what happens in this sort of dystopia where there is no more light. I thought the story itself was perfectly fine. To me, actually, really the standout is the way that they do the darkness in this. Because as you can see, like it does read as being dark, but they actually are still using a lot of this sort of sepia tone. I don't know. I thought that the artwork in this was particularly really nice. It all was sort of in this different kind of studies of monotone. I just really enjoyed the artwork itself, but the story I thought was only okay. So this is my second graphic novel from Roxane Gay where I'm like, I like the art and the idea, but the execution in terms of the story is not that exciting to me. So I'm thinking maybe just Roxane Gay and I, though I love her and I would consider her to be one of my top 5 favorite authors, maybe her work in graphic novels just is like not so much for me, which is fine. But anyway, this was okay, but not amazing. Again, I don't know how much of that is due to my mood versus the actual book. Similarly, Bad Guy by Ruby Dixon. I mean, God bless Ruby Dixon, love her. And she actually put me on to the thing I've had the most success with, which we'll get to in a second. But this was it's in the Rizdaverse adjacently, but it's really in this trio of books that she's writing with Ella Good and Katie Wilde, who I love Katie Wilde. I like Ella Good pretty well, but I really love Katie Wilde. And that one I think is coming out here in a couple of weeks. But anyway, this one is about like a gladiator who is a spliced species, which we have seen before in the Ruby Dixon verse, in Ice Home in particular. And his name is Crolden, and he is like this really, like he's called Crolden the Cruel, I think. But Crolden is like this really renowned gladiator. He is bought by some new owners and he's like refusing to train. When he wakes up, he doesn't really have any memories, but everybody's responding to him as if he is Crolden, so he's like piecing together his past, and he immediately scents this one slave who has come to serve him, who is a female, and she is the only one who's not afraid of him. Like, she's the only one around him who he doesn't smell fear on, and so he's attracted to her, even though he thinks she is not very physically attractive. He loves like her personality and the fact that she's not afraid of him, and you know, love ensues from there. I would say that this would have been more successful in my opinion if it had been a novella rather than a full novel. It's Ruby Dixon, so like, am I having a bad time in it? No, but I don't think it's one of her like stronger ones, because I just felt like it got a little meandering or a little just overdrawn out. That being said, I really liked the ending. I really liked the ending. It didn't go kind of where I thought it might. Hey, kitties. Sorry, I saw beginnings of a fight. Yeah, it didn't totally go where I thought it was gonna go, so I did like that. And it's Ruby Dixon for the most part. Is a Ruby Dixon novel like better than most sci-fi romances I'm gonna read? Yes, it is. So, you know, 3.5 stars. It was good. It's Ruby Dixon, comfort, palate cleansing read. Love her, but not, I think, one of her better ones. However, she did recommend in her Insta stories a new author that I had not read from called Honey Phillips. And as you guys know, I'm always on the hunt for new palate cleansing sci-fi romance. So I started reading this, I forget what it's called, but basically the setup for this series is sort of like Naked and Afraid. So we have these two creatures dropped into an unknown alien planet, one of whom is always a human female, and then these different men from different species across the galaxy, and they are just dropped onto this planet naked with a map and a knife for the guy, and then a map and usually either like a fire starter or something to keep the woman warm for the woman. You know, things progress from there. So the first one, like the writing was really nice. So I was like, oh, this is definitely like an on the better end of clarity of the writing. And the premise at first I was like, okay, like this is a little different, but not, I mean, these are pretty familiar plot beats in the first one. But at the end of the first one, you find out, like you get sort of a pullback and you find out that these two people are part of an experiment that unknown people are running. As you get through each novella, at the end, you were getting a little more information about like the experiment that's going on. And I felt like this was a series that got progressively much better as it went, both in terms of having like better or deeper characterization, but also just like the macro plot. I actually by the end was like, I really like this macro plot. So yeah, I actually quite ended up really enjoying this series. I would say that this is approaching and probably as good as Michelle Mills, who I would say is my second, like the closest read-alike I've found for Ruby Dixon. And the fact that Ruby Dixon was the one who put me onto Honey Phillips makes me very excited. So I'm up through the books that have been released in this series. I think the last one was called The Buff Beast, which was definitely my favorite because we get like this big reveal and I'm like, ooh, I think there's a lot of possibilities. I hope that this is a series that can just keep going. But now I want to go back and try some of her other series because she does have a couple of other series out. So yeah, I'm really excited. This is like this is a highlight of my reading month in the sense of like, do I have a new Kindle Unlimited sci-fi romance author for me to go to when I'm like in a Ruby Dixon withdrawal? Possibly. So that was exciting. But yeah, that's really about all I've read. Like I said, when I'm slumping, I do try to let myself mood read as much as possible. Oh, actually, you know what? I did read one thing that I enjoyed called Dead Dead Girls by Nikesia Afia. And I actually really enjoyed it, and it surprised me because it was much darker as a mystery than I was expecting, but I think I will save that for the end of the month to talk about, but that was an arc that I did get to. So beyond that, I've just tried to do mood reading when I've been in the mood to read, which has just sadly not been all that often, but that's what I've read. What I'm currently reading, I'm in the middle, speaking of Michelle Mills, I'm in the middle of the latest Michelle Mills that came out yesterday, and I got through about half of it last night before I fell asleep. Yeah, it's pretty good. I like this series she has going. It's called The Swirl, and basically the setup for this one is that there are these kind of like 5 sectors in this galaxy. 4 of them you can travel pretty freely between, but the 5th one is sort of partitioned off by this really dangerous asteroid belt that you only have like a 50-50 chance of surviving getting through. But if you do get through it, there's this area called the Swirl, and it's where basically all of the sort of like space junk for the galaxy collects. And there are all of these sort of like outposts who collect that garbage, and then they have these things called mini forges where they like recycle it, and then they have these industrial teleporters that they can use to send like non-organic life forms through back to the other 4 sectors, and they make money that way. So it's a really cool setup, and these are all reverse harem scenarios where there are alien species who there's like multiple men who form a bond, and then that is the way that they can create offspring, is to find a female for all of them. So it's an interesting romance setup. I think this one has been a little info dumpy, but so far I'm enjoying. I like the setup for this world. Like, it's a cool world, and I don't ever love the romances as much, but they're fine. Like, they're enjoyable palate cleansers, but the world itself is actually really pretty cool. So I'm in the middle of that. And then also I'm listening, I just started an audiobook, so I was like, I'm in the mood for contemplative nonfiction. And I just sort of on a whim from the library started Conflict is Not Abuse. I forget who the author is, but I've seen this referenced a few times in different video essays that I've seen in the last year or two. And the writing so far is absolutely fantastic. And basically what she's wanting to explore, she's not an academic, she's a creative writer. So this is not written like a typical academic text, and she kind of talks about her methodology. It's a very interesting project, but she's wanting to explore these ideas of how feeling intense discomfort or feeling intense disagreement or disorientation is not the same thing as somebody being abusive towards you, and reflecting on how that conflation of conflict and abuse possibly has led to a lot of like discrimination, and also just inability to have clear like ways to mediate conflict because people feel like they're being abused and not just that they're having a disagreement. So she was talking about that like in the context of, at the time when she was writing, like all the stuff that was happening in Ferguson, Missouri at that time, Eric Garner, like talking about that in the context of like, okay, just because a police officer feels like there is conflict or discomfort doesn't mean that they're actually under attack and therefore can use that kind of violence in turn. So anyway, it's an like just the way it's written is really interesting, and it's been like a nice, I've kind of had it on whenever I've been doing chores around the house recently. I should say that in theory I'm still reading Murder is Easy by Agatha Christie on audio, but this will tell you what kind of state of mind I'm in. I just can't get into it, and I remember really liking it. So I kind of put that to the side for my audio for now, and it seems like I'm doing a little bit better with nonfiction. So technically that is what I'm currently reading. What I might read next, well, I am gonna try to give myself as much freedom as possible, like I said, to just mood read. I have gotten ahead in my arc reading, and I'm gonna be sad if I lose being ahead because I enjoy being ahead, but that's why I remember to myself thinking it will be good for me to get a couple months ahead, because if I get to a point where I get busy or I'm not in the mood, then I have some cushion. So past Mara, good job. Current Mara, just appreciate past Mara's insight and don't feel guilty for not maintaining that aheadness. But in theory, the arcs that I would like to read this month are Capture the Crown by Jennifer Estep, which is a fantasy romance. For Your Own Good by, I think, Samantha Downing, which is a contemporary thriller that is set at a boarding school, and I think like one of the teachers is a serial killer. So that sounded cool. The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix, which is basically there's a support, like a group therapy circle for the last victim of serial killers, and then somebody starts killing the people in that support group. The Runaway Heiress by Meg Tilly, which is like a romantic suspense. I really like Meg Tilly. And then I did just get this in the mail, which is Anne of Manhattan by Brenna Starler, which is a contemporary romance update of Anne of Green Gables. Now, I went and looked at the reviews of this because I always, before people send me a physical copy, I'm like, I'm going to be pretty sure I'm going to like this. It's actually got a pretty low star rating, but all of the reviews seem to be critiquing the fact that there's like sexy time between Anne and Gilbert. And I'm like, guys, this is a contemporary romance. of Anne of Green Gables, like what do you think that this is? Like what do you think we're doing here? Like, were you not on fanfiction.net as a child? Apparently not. That's why I would want to read a retelling like this. So I'm optimistic that I will enjoy the fact that they get it on, because yeah, that's what I would expect in a contemporary romance. I love that the tagline is "She's a long way from Green Gables." That cracks me up. So anyway, appreciate them sending this over to me, and yeah, so this comes out I think on the 1st of June. So really, of those arcs, the rest of them are all out in July. So if I'm gonna make time to read any of them, probably it will be this. And a contemporary romance is an easier thing for me to slot in general. So that is what I need to get to from an arc perspective. Theory, I want to get to Striding Folly by Dorothy Sayers this month, but that is going to only be if I really am rebounding, because we know that Dorothy Sayers has been a little hit or miss for me this year. Then I do have 2 book club things that I want and need to get to. One is My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. This is for my workbook club. This is what they picked. It's nice and short, and actually I'm quite looking forward to this. I keep meaning to make time to get to it because I've heard really interesting things about it and keep not doing it. So I'm actually super jazzed that they picked this, and I'm also jazzed that it will be short and easy, like an easier thing for me to get through. Something that will be harder to get through, but that I need to do, is Shadow and Claw by Jean Wolfe. Leanna has started reading this, and she has given us some feedback that honestly does not make me excited to start reading this. However, it is for book club, so I will read it, but I think my chances of enjoying this are very much going down just purely based on my mood. Trying to go into this with an open mind, we'll see what happens, but theory, well no, not in theory. I will read this because I have to, and we'll see how that goes. And then just some rereads. Hostage to Pleasure by Nalini Singh and Branded by Fire by Nalini Singh are the 2 that I would like to get to as a part of podcast schedule. So Hostage to Pleasure I have to get to this month, but if possible, and also just because I do think some rereading would be good for my overall de-slumping, I think I may also just power through Branded by Fire, because Branded by Fire is one of my very favorites in the series, so at least it was on the first read. So I'm excited. Hopefully that this will also help with possible slumpiness. And then the only thing I pulled in as a possible mood read is, just got this, it's called They Call This Enemy by George Takei, and this is a graphic novel nonfiction account of the Japanese internment camps here in the US. It's May, so this is, you know, seasonally appropriate, but also just, I really enjoy graphic novel nonfiction. Graphic novels I find to be a good thing to have in the mix when I'm in a slump, and this was recommended to me on a live stream a couple of weeks ago from my friend Ashley at the Bookish Realm when we were talking about nonfiction. So this is, you know, I trust her judgment implicitly, and so if and when I'm looking for something kind of short that I can get through in an evening, I think that this may be what I pick up. So that's most of what I've got planned. Like I said, really the focus is on trying to mood read short things as much as possible, because I do tend to find that helps me get back my mojo. But I'm also just, like I said, I'm gonna take a couple of videos off. It's hard for me because I'm a planner. I'm an Enneagram 1 Virgo moon. I like to stick to my schedule and to my plans, but sometimes you have to adjust your plans, and I think that this will be for the good of my overall well-being and for me getting de-slumped, so that hopefully at the end of the month I will be able to report that I've kind of gotten back in my groove. So let me know how you guys are doing. Are you guys also sort of hitting the wall / languishing / just like struggle bus? I don't know. I feel like I'm just struggle bus the last couple of weeks. Hopefully I'm gonna get my mojo back here. But anyway, I think that that's it for me. I feel like I talked a lot considering that I've not read all that much, but let me know how you guys are doing. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about in the comments below. And yeah, I think that that will do it for me. I will see you guys back next Sunday for that video essay on Jane Eyre, which I'm really excited about. I hope you guys will enjoy it. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below. And oh, I also have a link to this t-shirt if you're interested. This is my Ladies of Classic Lit t-shirt that I enjoy. I'll put a link to that below. And yeah, that'll do it for me. I hope you're having an absolutely lovely day today, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye.